A&E hospitals, so that if you had a cut or a bruise or a broken arm, you could be treated pretty quickly, and out the door you went. It meant reforms in social care, so you didn't get blood blocking. It made making sure that emergency care was at the centre of the hospital, not on the fringe or the side, losing out to some of the important specialties across the hospital. I got to travel to Australia and to New Zealand, who'd made huge advances at cutting A&E times at that time. But we did it, basically. We reduced the terrible story of people waiting on, you might remember in one of the elections, I think it was the 1992 election, actually, A&E was blowing up as an issue. People were waiting on beds. It was an absolute nightmare. Hours and hours on trolleys in hospitals across the board. Anyway, here we are, more than 20 years later, and it's exploded again. But it's been going on for years. We are now told that more than 250 people in England are dying each week because of long waits in A&E. 1.5 million emergency patients waited more than 12 hours. 1.5 million. We haven't even gotten onto ambulance waiting times. If you have a heart attack or a stroke, you need an ambulance to get you quickly, to get you to A&E. Is that happening? No, it's not happening. We also cut ambulance waiting times, particularly for the most serious things that people call in on. So what is going on? You've got to support GPs. You've got to support out of hours. Because, of course, if you have an emergency when your GP, or it might not be an emergency, actually. It might be something relatively minor. But if you can't wait and you can't get to a GP, or a GP can't get to you, you're probably going to pitch up at A&E. All of that you've got to deal with to reduce A&E wait. So I've got form on this. You know, I worked on this. I put my elbow into it. It's my first job in government. And, you know, there were some wonderful people that I worked with at the time. That organisations like the King's Fund were doing a lot to spread the word on how to cut emergency care. There was so much. I've got a dear friend who's a consultant up in Manchester who assisted me behind the scenes. We did a lot of work to reduce A&E waiting times. If you are a doctor or a nurse or a care assistant working in a hospital and you've seen this explode, I'd love to hear from you. If you've had to wait for a loved one in A&E, if your loved one lost their life effectively because of A&E waiting times, you're waiting for an ambulance maybe, and it just didn't arrive, I'd love to hear from you. What is going on and what needs to happen? And by the way, as I say, it's not just about our A&E departments. It's about what's going on in the rest of the hospital. It's about what's going on in social care. It's about what's going on in our GP practices. It's about the ability to triage properly. It's about urgent care and how you deal with cuts and scrapes and bruises, those sorts of things that can be dealt with quickly. It's about a hell of a lot of organisation and a hell of a lot of efficiency. But none of us want to end up in A&E with one of our children tonight, because we know that we will be waiting for hours. And then, of course, I don't know what's going on at the moment. If you're mentally unwell and you end up in A&E, if you're homeless and you end up in A&E, but I suspect it's horrific, and I suspect that's adding to waiting times as well, because those services are collapsing around our ears. So let's talk about A&E and emergency care in this hour, and I want to hear from you. Tell me your stories. What is going on in our country? I'm just reading here the story in the Times, and it says, of course, it reminds me, and I didn't even get to this bit. The Prime Minister made cutting waiting times one of his 5 priorities. So this is a national priority, and 250 people are dying each week. I mean, this is shocking. This is something he says he cares about, and more than 250 people extra are dying each week. So if this is one of Rishi Sunak's priorities, I'd hate it if it wasn't a priority. Would that figure be 500? It's going south. Please call me. 0345 6060 973. Chuck calling in from Bromley. Chuck, you're an A&E doctor. Thank you for calling in.
Hey, David. Brilliant. I've always wanted to speak to you. So great discussion. Basically, I've just finished the night shift now.
Oh my God, you must be knackered. Yeah. What time did you start last night?
What time did you start? 9 to 9. So it's a 12-hour.
Right.
It's a bit.
Are you home yet, or are you?
Actually, interestingly enough, I'm now going to National Trust with my family. So I'm
well done.
Yeah.
Bank holiday Monday, and you're taking them to a National Trust. But maybe you can get a little sleep on one of the sort of chaise lounge or something in the house. Get a little bit. What is going on in A&E?
Yeah, so basically, to give you some context, so I work in the mental health team, and so what ends up happening is, so for example, yesterday, classic example, patient came in, was feeling suicidal. I did a risk assessment along with the other psychiatric liaison nurses, and we thought, okay, this patient is too dangerous for them to go home, so we made a decision to admit them. But the problem is, they need to be admitted in a mental health bed.
Yeah.
But because the mental health units are completely rammed, absolutely rammed, no beds available at all, that person ends up waiting in A&E. And I kid you not, it's very, very, very common that the patient can wait in A&E for about 3-4 days.
And 3-4 days?
3-4 days. And so you end up getting, these are A&E beds. And so you end up getting lots of people in A&E waiting to be seen, but there's literally no rooms to see them. So this is, I don't know why, it doesn't seem like this is common knowledge, but you talk to the NHS staff, as you know, well, you've worked in this space, so you understand there are massive issues with the backlog of, for example, like I said, the mental health beds completely jam-packed, and it pushes and backs up the entire system. So I told my patient yesterday, actually a couple of them, I said, I'm so sorry, I think you need to come in, but unfortunately, you might be where you are now for about 2-3 days at least. And this is just the system. This is the system we're up against. You know,
this is not making.
I can't,
this is the other thing about this that I remember is it makes people who aren't well sicker.
Yeah.
Waiting that long.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like, you're dealing with people who are very, very high risk. In many cases, what we found is patients who, let's for example, if they have addiction problems or if there's other things going on, they end up leaving, and then they end up coming back, and it's like, oh no, this person's too risky, and then you're balancing different amounts of risk. Or if it's, for example, you have incredibly sick patients, again, waiting in A&E, and you know A&E staff, they'll triage as best as they can. But ultimately, if you literally don't have anywhere to see these patients, then you end up getting people, absolutely, on trolleys who are quite literally in front of your eyes deteriorating, and you only have so much. For example, again, yesterday, there was, unfortunately, some patients came in and they had a massive road traffic accident. And you know, A&E, you obviously prioritise. So boom, they went straight to RESA, the top of the list. And then you get people who are actually really sick as well, but they're obviously not as sick as someone who's had a traumatic RTA or a traffic accident. And so that's literally, you're balancing risk constantly, and people just, I'm not remotely surprised at the figures that have come out, because this is quite literally what we're facing every single day.
Chuck, thank you for calling in. All power to you. Enjoy taking the family to the National Trust property. Try and get some kit. Very, very grateful indeed. But frankly, you shouldn't have to work in these conditions. But thank you so much for calling in. I've got a text message here from Andrew. He says, David, my daughter broke her hand and was seen within 30 minutes and out in 3 hours. So excellent service. I wonder where that was. There are clearly some hospitals suffering, though, a crisis of waiting times and some that are not. If you're in a hospital where it's working, tell us why you think it's working. Call me on 0345 6060 973. We're talking about A&E waits, this extraordinary figure out today, 250 people dying every week because our A&E is in crisis. When I was a junior minister in the Tony Blair government, we got it down to a 4-hour wait. We sustained that right up to 2010. It's gone south under this government, terribly south now, with unnecessary loss of life as a consequence of this. A hell of a lot of work went into reducing A&E times. A lot of work's going to have to go in once again. If you work in A&E, what's going on? What's your experience? If you're a patient who's recently been in A&E, how was your experience? If you've lost a loved one because of A&E waiting times, and feel comfortable telling me your story, please call me. And of course, one of the subsets of this is also our ambulance waiting times. And there are, I'm afraid, are stories of people who've had strokes, heart attacks, who need to get to A&E quickly, aren't getting to A&E quickly, and that will certainly be contributing to the death toll. Call me on 0345 6060 973. David Lammy here on LBC. The time now is 10:16.
This is LBC.
With the all-new Mini Countryman, everything just got bigger. That means Mini's biggest electric range, bigger technology, and bigger adventures. With space for everybody. Even him. He's a good boy. And all this bigness comes from a Mini. The new Mini Countryman, our biggest Mini ever. Book your test drive today. Electric range 245 to 287 miles. WLTP figures of comparison purposes. Real life results may vary. Test drive subject to status and availability.
Investing with AJ Bell feels so good. You'll just have to ring that bell. What's that? You want a bell? That's cool. You can ring any bell. Church bell, cowbell, doorbell, bus bell. You can even ring an Annabelle.
Hello, Annabelle speaking.
That's it. That's the sweet sound of... Oh, okay, you want more bells. Dinner bells, bike bells, gun bells, sleigh bells, tubular bells, hell's bells. Any bell, anywhere, anytime you like. That's the sweet sound of investing with AJ Bell. AJ Bell. Feel good investing. The value of investments can go down as well as up.
How do you make good wine taste better? Let red breathe. Chill rosé to perfection. Pair white with cheese. At Waitrose, we know there's one trick for all wine. Whether fruity Sanleo Prosecco, crisp Mirabeau en Provence Rosé, or oaky Terre de Faiano Organic Primitivo, they all taste even better when they cost less. Get 25% off when you buy 6 or more bottles of wine or fizz over £6 at Waitrose this Easter. Selected stores and lines, subject to availability, excludes Scotland, Wales and Jersey, excludes bottles priced £100 and over.
Every year, thousands of people lose money in investment scams.
I wanted to make my savings work for me, so I found an investment company online. My investment looked like it was doing well, so of course I gave them more money, but the problem started when I tried to withdraw it. They stole £30,000. When CEL called to say they'd recovered every penny, my wife and I just cried.
We help recover money from the financial system that's failed you. Visit celsolicitors.co.uk today.
When it comes to maximizing your savings, timing is everything. And now is the perfect time to take advantage of your full allowance with a new Cuffley ISA. You could earn up to 10.06% tax-free interest gross per annum, compounded over a 2-year term. It's fee-free with loans secured against property. Visit cufflink.com, K-U-F-L-I-N-K. Your capital is at risk. Tax rules apply to IF ISAs and may be subject to change. Cufflink is authorized and regulated by the FCA.
Experience the world's longest running play. Agatha Christie's masterpiece, The Mousetrap. It's the whodunit that defined a genre, where everyone has something to hide and everyone's a suspect. The only question is, have you done it? Agatha Christie's The Mousetrap, the West End classic that will have you on the edge of your seat. Don't just see it, solve it.
David Lammy on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Jenny has texted in. She says, "Hi David, I'm a nurse in a small hospital. I worked previously in an acute hospital and it's just horrendous. The other month I couldn't send a patient in who was 102 years old. As the paramedics said, the waiting list was more than 15 hours. I've been in the NHS for 27 years. It's an absolute mess. Thank you, Jenny, for texting in. And there's another one here from Duncan in Worcester. He says, David, it's even wider than you rightly say. Health inequalities are a key concern. People in deprived areas die younger, but also spend more years in poor health. They're also more likely to be admitted to hospitals for non-elective care. It all starts with social injustice. Beautifully put, absolutely right to mention health inequalities and how this affects the poorest in our society. And another one here from Zara in West Ham. My grandmother had a stroke in 2022. My auntie reached her house in Wembley from Surrey before the ambulance did. Oh my God. She lived 10 minutes from hospital and she didn't survive. Zara, thank you for texting in. I'm so sorry. Catherine calling in from Dartford. Thank you, Catherine.
Hi, I just wanted to call because share my experience, or my daughter's experience in A&E. Last October, we attended A&E. She'd had sharp head pains and some nausea and vomiting. She had a history of having an astrocytoma removed from her cerebellum in her brain.
Explain what that is for those who don't understand.
So she was diagnosed in 2022 with a tumour in her cerebellum, which is the lower part of your brain at the back in the cavity, and part of the tumour had grown into her brain stem. It was found through an MRI scan, and she received really good treatment. She was sent to hospital immediately after the MRI scan at a clinic, and then transferred to a specialist hospital, had surgery within 4 days, recovered really well. Within a week was home, and then 14 months later, last October, she developed some short, sharp headaches and some nausea and vomiting. And I believe this to be hydrocephalus, which can be caused by the brain tumour, and she'd had it mildly when she'd initially been diagnosed. So we took her to our local A&E. Well, I took her, and we gave the symptoms, and I said what I believed it to be.
How old is your daughter, by the way?
She was 19 then, at that time in October. So she was a student studying criminology at Greenwich University in her second year.
Wonderful.
And so we went, and she had these short, sharp headaches. We went into A&E, explained the situation. We waited 3.5 hours to get a CT scan or to be seen by a doctor. She had the CT scan. The doctor reviewed it immediately and said there was no hydrocephalus showing. We were sent back to the waiting room for another 2 hours, and then the doctor ran out panicking, saying severe hydrocephalus, we have to get her to Rita. She was taken to Rita, and there was some to-ing and fro-ing between the specialist hospital about transferring her. And when they eventually transferred her after me demanding that they did so because that's where she needed to be. She needed a shunt to relieve the swelling on her brain. The ambulance came, got in the ambulance, but unfortunately before we could leave our local hospital, she went into cardiac arrest. They got her back after 8 minutes, but unfortunately due to the damage in her brain, even though she was transferred to the specialist neurological hospital in our area, she was pronounced brain stem dead the next day. And I believe that if she'd been prioritised correctly, maybe if the doctors had a bit more understanding of what her symptoms were, and put that together with her history, which I was telling, that they might be able to transfer her sooner and she might have survived.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You're a 19-year-old beautiful girl.
Yeah. And she was just wiped out.
It brings tears to your eyes. It brings tears to my eyes, and I'm so sorry. And I guess, the news today that people are dying because of the waits, and this really just brings it home. It just brings it home.
Yeah, it does. It's just, I've worked for the NHS for 22 years, so I understand the pressures and stuff, although I'm not clinical. I just think that it's just a mess. It's just, people just aren't getting the help they need. People aren't getting prioritised quickly enough. Everything's just too full. It's just not working. It didn't work for her. It worked the first time, but it didn't work when she needs them again.
Catherine, in your experience, those 22 years that you had working in the NHS, what would good have looked like that might have meant that your daughter was still with us? What would good have looked like?
I think if we'd continued to increase our capacity and our staffing to reflect the demand rising, but unfortunately we kind of didn't increase it. We tried to push things out in different directions, and unfortunately it means that nobody can get doctor's appointments at the moment. It's impossible to get a doctor's appointment, so therefore if you get people end up going to A&E that potentially could be seen in their local community, and then that puts more pressure on A&E. Then when A&E is for really sick people, when really sick people go to A&E, unfortunately, if they're prioritised incorrectly, the waits are so long because the people are there that really could be seen in the community, and through no fault of their own, they can't get seen because there's no one to see them.
Catherine, how are you doing? How are you and your family doing?
It's really tough. You know, it's really hard. We're nearly 6 months along the line now since she passed away, and you know, it's coming up to her, what would have been her 20th birthday in May, and you know, it's just that sense of loss and that sense of injustice and unfairness, and you know, there's still an ongoing investigation into her death open with the coroner, so we haven't registered her death or anything like that yet. We don't know whether it'll go to inquest or not, but it's just the unfairness of it all. It just makes me so, like, it's just awful.
Time.
For everybody.
It takes a long time. Catherine, thank you for ringing and sharing and just, you know, bringing the powerful sense of experience to this important story, this Bank Holiday Monday. All my love to you. God bless you and your family. As grief is such a tough thing, and it takes time, but all power to you. Thank you so much for calling in. Alan in Barnsley. Alan.
Hello there.
Hi, Alan. Thank you so much for calling in.
First time caller, David, so I appreciate you listening to my story. My wife of 34 years died at 52.
Alan, that's the same age I am. I mean, that's...
Yeah. Unfortunately, again, it started in A&E. She had tummy pains. She was working 2 jobs. And they told us we were going to be roughly waiting 8 hours to come back tomorrow. So we went the next day, another 6 hours before we finally got to see someone. We got to see someone, and they did a CAT scan and said it was her bowels were caught inside on a previous pregnancy, a section that she'd had. It was a very routine operate surgery, probably 3 or 4 hours. So they did a CAT scan. Didn't pick up on anything else. It's just a bowel problem. They finally give us a date for surgery, which was 6 months after. They did the surgery. Vicky went home, my wife. We went home, and 2 lumps started to appear. And the speed that the lumps were growing was unbelievable. Within 6 months, I would say that the 2 lumps, 2 hernias, what they turned out to be, had grown to about 2 foot. We used to go to the doctors every other day. I know, and she dragged these 2 lumps about with her to work. She worked at a local college and cared for people at night. She worked for a care company. And she dragged these 2 lumps about with her for 2 years. They wouldn't see it, they wouldn't admit that because they'd caused the hernias. But like I say, they must have done because the CAT scan was done previously to them repairing the bowel problem. This went on and on and on 2 years, and a doctor, their own doctor, a doctor local to us, he said, look, it's obvious hernias. I don't know why they're denying it, but all I can think is they haven't got any money to do the surgery, any time or money to do the surgery. And then a week after, their own doctor contacted a different hospital in a different city, and he said yes, I'll do the surgery straight away. So we went to the different hospital, and my wife of 34 years from school days, you know, I love very dearly.
We can feel the powerful love that you had for her in your voice.
Yes, and I miss her every day.
Oh, God.
He opened his stomach up and he said it was vile. Obviously there were hernias, and every day the hospital had denied it. There's no hernias, we can't do anything to help you. This doctor did a 9-hour surgery, took the hernias out. I don't know what else he took out, I don't know what organs were infected. But she died 2 days later.
She must have been in incredible pain, Alan.
Well, yeah, the pain and the I mean, the original hospital sent her up with the stomach leaking. There were no aftercare. Nobody coming to the house. I had to do it all.
You don't expect this in the sixth richest economy in the world, do you? I mean,
no, it's like a third world country. And well, like you were saying, David, if you run it down to 4 hours A&E, sure there's a blueprint for that. Everything else to me are just excuses and overspending where it doesn't need to be.
Alan, have you been to see your local MP?
It's been to the...
Is it been to...
He went through the coroner.
Okay.
But because this doctor took all her parts away, the coroner really couldn't make
an assessment,
true written statement. And then we went to the hearing, what you talk about, what
the inquest or the
we had a 2-day inquest, but again, how can the inquest make a statement or a decision when they previously took everything out of it?
Oh.
You know, all the organs that were infected and the mesh, and they just can't. And these hearings, I think they'll have the time because such as we were told we couldn't speak at the hearing, it was just to hear from the doctors that day. And the second day I didn't even bother going because there's too much time now with doctors at the hospital, in my mind, spent on filling paperwork in.
Alan, I mean, I think there are lots of messages coming in of support to you. Thank you for sharing. It must be incredibly difficult. You know, we send you all our thoughts and condolences, and thank you for sharing, because this is what it's really about, leading Britain's conversation. And we've got a serious problem in our emergency care departments across the country, and we really bring home the extent of that. Thank you so much. You're listening to David Lamley here on LBC. The time now is 10:33, time for the news headlines with James Watts.
There are concerns. Delays at A&E departments in England could be leading to more than 250 deaths every week. Analysis suggests there were 14,000 fatalities linked to excessive waits last year. A controversial new hate crime law extending existing legislation has taken effect in Scotland. Policing leaders have warned the measures could be weaponised by a so-called activist fringe across the political spectrum. The Met Police is facing criticism over claims an officer told a Jewish woman that swastikas need to be looked at in context. The activist told officers the symbol was being displayed during a pro-Palestinian march in London on Saturday. LBC weather, cloudy with heavy rain pushing northwards across the UK, drier in the far north, a high of 14 degrees.
LBC.
gotta be the OG McChicken, if you know you.
Whoa, this McSpicy is actually...
Classic. McNuggets, barbecue sauce. It's peak lunchtime. Time for a McCrispy. We've got a bit of something for everyone. McDonald's. Chicken that hits different. Served after 11 a.m, subject to availability.
A school reunion. What am I doing getting these people together after all these years? The last time we shared a room, there was leg warmers and rah-rah skirts involved.
We can't help the uncertainty around getting old friends together. But when it comes to bringing your old pensions together, we can help. Transfer all your old pensions into one place. To combine, go to standardlife.co.uk. Transferring pensions won't be right for everyone. Money invested is at risk. Provided by Phoenix Life Limited, trading as Standard Life. For full details, visit standardlife.co.uk.
Need help to grow your business online? Vodafone Business presents Digital SOS with me, Stephen Bartlett.
Going digital is everything nowadays. I could really do with some help.
If your business is struggling with its digital skills, Vodafone Business has got you covered. Vodafone VHub is a free place to go to for small business support and practical guidance. Search Vodafone VHub now and you can book a free consultation with a VHub advisor today.
I'm Susan Tanner from the Darwood & Tanner Dental Practice, a specialist in prosthodontics. I love working with dental implants to help patients with missing teeth regain their smile and their confidence. If you're choosing dental implants, our team are the experts who will be by your side for the whole journey.
From gum care to dental implants, Darwood & Tanner, celebrating 30 years at the forefront of world-class dentistry.
To find out more and meet our team, start at darwoodandtanner.co.uk.
This is no ordinary cross. It's the power to choose your leaders, shape your communities, and decide your future. This is no ordinary cross. It's your influence and your voice. The Mayor of London and London Assembly elections are on Thursday, 2nd of May. Pencil in a date, bring your photo ID, and make your mark. The power is in your hand. Find out more at londonelects.org.uk.
Introducing a new instant access savings account from Wealthify. Get your money working harder with our competitive variable interest rate of 4.91% AER, 4.8% gross. Built to be flexible, you can save on your terms from as little as £1 with no penalties to withdraw. Go on, activate your savings at wealthify.com. The Wealthify Instant Access Savings Account is powered by Clearbank Limited, who are authorised by the Prudential Regulation Authority and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority and the Prudential Regulation Authority. Interest paid monthly, T's and C's apply.
Leading Britain's conversation with David Lammy. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
We're discussing the story across the news this morning with 250 people dying every week because of waiting times in A&E, with now people waiting longer than 12 hours. I care about this because I was asked 20 years ago by Tony Blair to be a junior health minister, leading on what some listeners will remember, the 4-hour wait.